Welcome back to another episode of BHAW Radio. This is episode 60. I'm your host, Brian Rowan, and tonight we got a special episode. We got Army Volunteer Assistant Jesse Dellavecchia here on the show. Jesse was a recent NCAA finalist this past year. I'm sure if you're listening to this show, you know who he is. You're probably familiar with his background. So welcome to the show, Jesse. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course. So, I was excited when you invited me on the podcast, and a lot going on at West Point. So be some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I've been meaning to, when Coach Ward, I guess, called me, I remember exactly where I was. And he was like, hey, what do you think about Jesse Dellavecchia being, a volunteer assistant? I was like, that is what we need to get. You're right in the same weight class, right around like all the best guys on our team. Shots fired at the 25 and 33 pounders. But, we have studs everywhere, but, right around your weight brackets where our guys are right on the cusp. So when Kevin called, and I was like, that was my first thought, was like, this huge for these guys. So that was my first thoughts, but I'm excited to have you on the show. Me, I have you on for a while now, but things come up and get busy and people reach out, but I can make all the excuses in the world, but appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course. And I totally agree. I mean, it was a perfect fit, and all the guys around my weight class, they're all super tough and good guys to work with. So yeah, it's perfect.
Yes, I guess we'll start I'm not right at the beginning, because we're going to focus this episode on kind of your transition to West Point and then the season ahead and everything in between. But you were, I was trying to go, I didn't look like specifically at the records last year or anything like that, but I think you're probably the most successful wrestler not to come back for that, extra season. Starting off there, was that the plan overall? Like, how you knew going into NCAA tournament, you weren't coming back and you were going to get into coaching, or kind of talk to us through that a little bit?
Yeah. So that was my 6th year. When the COVID year started and nationals got canceled, I was saying that to my coach and stuff. I was like, this is my last year. Like, I'm done after this year. I really didn't even want to use my 5th year that much. And then COVID happened, nationals got canceled. I had a really good season, and I still wasn't planning on coming back. And then about 2 months after the season ended, I was like, all right, I'll do it. And my coach made it pretty easy for me. He gave me a lot of leeway with things. I was able to be home. I was going back and forth a lot in the summer to train, but I was home Monday through Friday. And I'd go on the weekends and train. So, and then even that season, there was a shortened season. I knew we were only going to have 8 matches. So it was kind of an easy choice at that point. It wasn't a whole season where I had to go through that grind and stuff again. So it worked out.
We talked a lot about that in the past. I think that could even change some coaches' mindsets for the college season going forward. Is 15 years ago, you wrestled, 40, 50 matches a year. Now you're seeing a lot of college programs wrestling 20, 30. Last year's shortened season, brought it down to, 8 to, I think the most guys got 15 matches before conference or something like that, maybe at the most. Do you think you could see a change in that, going forward? Or do you think it's going to go back to, 20 to 35 matches, a year for most of the guys?
I think both is good, and I think it really depends on the individual. For me, it being my 6th year, I really preferred the shortened season. But my freshman, sophomore, junior year, getting those matches and that competition, I loved it. I was fresh. It was really healthy, no injuries or anything. So that long season, it is grueling and stuff, but I didn't mind that many matches. Towards the end, I kind of wanted a little bit of a short season. I really like that.
Yeah,
but
no,
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think the biggest thing is it maybe should be condensed. The season, that winter break is kind of a lot. Makes the season feel a lot longer than it is.
Yeah, everybody weight jumps up, and then you got to get back down and get out of your groove. You have some good momentum probably going in. Can halt that a little bit. But it was great following along as a fan. Watching. Your semifinals match was pretty. Maybe I'm a little biased, but it was super exciting. But I watched it a few more times, kind of replays and things like that. Did it the fact that the replay and shots fired at Andrew Howe, but being a little baby, about the whole thing. And like, I mean, there's some, you know, some things you can challenge and some things you can't. It just seemed so irrational, kind of like ruin the moment a little bit. I know this has nothing to do with arm wrestling, but I was just curious as a fan, like, you know, did that impact the moment at all for you? You know, you want to celebrate and then you're like, celebrate a little bit and then you're like, oh wait, I don't know. And then talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, first it was like I figured I was fine. And I didn't even realize they challenged it at first because I was so happy. And then after it started taking like pretty long, went on for like 2 to 3 minutes. And that's when I started like kind of just trying to shift my mindset into, hey, I'm wrestling, like get focused. Um, and I think that comes with being a good competitor is just trying to, I don't know, there's so many things that can go wrong in a match. And you just got to adjust on the fly. And yeah, I was hyped, but right when my coach was like, hey, get focused, you could be wrestling, like I kind of just switched my mindset to I'm wrestling, and that's all I was focused on. But yeah, probably ruined the moment a little bit, but got the win, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, it could have been worse. You could have been the other guy. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so I guess switching gears kind of, you know, in that transition, I guess, how did it come to be? You know, why did you choose West Point? You know, being from New York, I'm sure that's, you know, being close to home played an important factor. But talk to us a little bit about that transition, why you chose West Point, maybe some of the other programs you were interested in, and, you know, why West Point stuck out.
Yeah, so West Point, I mean, it's such a prestige school. Got a good coaching staff. And I think the biggest thing is how strong the team is this year. Like we were just talking about, the guys around my weight class, they're all really tough. We got Hartman, OG, Ben Pazook, some really tough guys to work with that can possibly, like, good chance of All-American this year. I really believe in them. I'm really happy with how those guys are working and their intensity and their focus. So it's a really good group of guys for me, especially as my first year coaching. It's a great team to be a part of. So that's why I chose West Point.
Were there any other
Now,
programs that you were super interested in? Like, you know, you're probably a hot commodity coming out, you know, you're like the number one, you know, probably recruit on the coaching, you know, on the coaching scale, as far as, you know, probably volunteer assistants get, you know, coming out of this, you know, out of competing. You know, what other programs were you interested in?
yeah, there was a few, but ultimately it came down between Brown and Army. And I really liked Brown, but just the team, like the team here compared to Brown, it's kind of complete opposites. I mean, Brown's tough. They have a good freshman class, and I liked what they're doing over there. But to have these guys and possibly an All-American my first year being here, that really stuck out to me, and that's going to like lead me in to way more success in my coaching career compared to Brown. So I think that's why I chose West Point.
Nice. Did you know coaching was going to be like the route, you know, coming out of college, you know, from, you know, probably maybe like the start of college or the start of last year? Like, was that always the plan, or when did that become like what you were going to do?
I never thought I'd be a coach until probably my last year of college. What my coach did for me at Ryder, he really did make such a huge impact and changed my life. And he really made me fall in love with the sport. And that's all I wanted to do. Like, he made wrestling so fun for me, and like I just became obsessed with it. And it's fun learning new technique, and I want to be with like what he did for me. I want to try and impact these kids' lives and make them change and help them reach their goals. So he was a big inspiration for wanting to coach.
That's good to hear. Yeah, no, a lot of people talk about, you know, the aspect of enjoying wrestling now and making it more fun, and, you know, helps you take ownership. You know, that's like, not to say that's just the Penn State model, but they're the ones who talk about that a lot. I think about that being, you know, a Pennsylvania guy. It's like, if I look back at my career, I did not have that much fun. It's probably wasn't why I wasn't very good at wrestling. No, I think that's huge, and especially helps you take ownership. In a place like West Point, I feel like if you don't want to spend that much extra time in the room unless you enjoy it, and instead of if it being like, you know, kind of a a place that you enjoy, you can hang out there, more often. You can get a lot more workouts and get better technique. So, it's great that you're bringing that to the team. Have you seen that making a big impact with the guys? You feel like they enjoy it more? Maybe you're a little biased, but do the specific guys you work with, do they seem like they want to spend more time in the room and focus on, technique?
Oh, 100%. I mean, just working on new technique and then drilling it during practice and then actually hitting it in live and seeing that improvement. It's exciting and it's fun. So a lot of guys will come in, for individuals, we'll work on things. They're sending me YouTube videos of like guys hitting in matches. So now like they're watching just high level wrestling a lot of the time. That's what needs to be done to be successful, is just watching top guys work on things and then you trying it in the room and kind of just breaking it down. And I think that makes wrestling really fun. It's just learning new things. And then making it work in practice. And that's a good feeling. And it going to practice, it makes it like you have something to work on. And you're not just going there to go through the motion stuff. Like you're coming in with a goal, and that's really important. So I definitely see a little mindset and shift in their focus.
Mm-hmm. So you got to West Point, was it like early August timeframe?
Yep.
So when you got there, I guess, have you been to West Point, previously, being from New York? I don't know if you've ever been to West Point before. Kind of talk to us about like getting there and maybe what like surprised you most about West Point, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I've never been there. And
Really?
when I was telling people, I was coming here, they kept telling me how beautiful it was, and all that. So I was real excited to come here. And so I first got here, and it was actually a funny story. On my visit here to apply for the coaching job, I accidentally went into the base. I was supposed to meet Coach Ward outside at the visitor center. And I went right to the base, and what's it called? They were not happy about that. I didn't have like a military ID or anything. I showed them my driver's license. I kind of had no clue what I was getting into. So that was like a whole story. I won't go too deep into it, but I just didn't realize. I understood it was a military base, but I didn't realize how strict some things were. And now it's kind of just like a normal, kind of used to it after 2 months. But it's different than most universities for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Ward, he talks about kind of how like changing the perception that when you're talking to recruits and things like that, people think that you're like robotic and that there's a certain type that goes to West Point. Did you think like the wrestlers were going to be a certain type, or maybe you knew some of the guys before this because you competed against them, but like did the wrestlers turn out to be like the kind of individuals you thought, or were like different in certain ways?
So people who didn't know about the school, or they thought they did, they kept telling me, they're all robots and stuff. But I'm pretty close with Coach Abden, who was the coach here before. And he was telling me they're just like anyone else. Like they're normal kids, just like us, like goofy, fun, like that fun. And when I got here, that's what I was expecting. And that's exactly who they are. They're just normal kids that like wrestling, came here for a great opportunity. And yeah, they're a pleasure to work with.
Nice. So coming in, I guess, what were your expectations, goals for the year, certain individuals, kind of based on while Kevin hired you, you talked a little bit before about, the potential of having All-Americans, was that your expectation kind of going in, looking towards the year? Is there anything specific you're looking for from guys?
Yeah, that's the main goal for sure. I mean, we haven't had an All-American in a little while, and my goal is to turn at least one or two of these guys into an All-American. And that's the plan. And I kind of know what my coach did for me at Ryder, and kind of trying to bring that approach to them, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah. Coach Ward talked about last episode how the one thing he really likes about you is like the way you like learn to understand wrestling, and some individuals just get techniques and just understand it right away. And he could tell that like it took you a little bit of time. And so you have the extra understanding of like learning techniques. Is that something that it's always been the case? I mean, you were pretty successful growing up, being, I think, were you a 2-time state finalist in high school?
Yep.
So it wasn't like you started out really slow and then you just kind of progressed in college. Talk about that a little bit and how that kind of molded you into, maybe the coaching style you have.
Yeah, so I was always good at wrestling, and I was great on top my entire life. I had always had good leg attacks, but I never knew how to hand fight. And I didn't know how to hand fight even in college my first few years. And eventually me and my coach, we kind of just broke it down, and like, we're like, hey, we really got to figure out a hand fight, especially with these Big Ten guys, because I'd get forced into taking bad shots a lot, and I would just, get out of hand fight, get tired and stuff. So I really learned how to hand fight my last 2 years, and it took a lot of time, but we kind of just broke it down and kept working on it. And eventually kind of just, since doing it that way and spending so much time on it, I got really good at it, at teaching it and understanding all the like little details that come along with it. So I think also not being like the strongest guy, I was never the stronger wrestler. I couldn't really force things, so I kind of had to learn positioning and make sure my technique was perfect. So I think that's what helped me become a good hand fighter and a good coach.
Yeah, that's if I'm ever going to make a comeback for Midlands, I think I need to work on my hand fighting a little bit. This is like a running joke on the show that I'm going to make a comeback, but I don't know if it's going to happen. So are there specific guys that you work with more? Obviously, there's like the middleweight guys that you focus on, but were those guys like kind of like, hey, you're going to work on these 4 guys and kind of work with that, or do you have like a specific agenda that you run practices with, or kind of talk through how you're coaching the individuals versus the team, kind of like that?
Yeah, so I'm working with a lot of guys. Pretty much the entire freshman class, who I really enjoy working with. They're all tough. They're so open to learning. They trust everything I tell them. So it's such an easy group to work with. And they really trust me, which is awesome. And I love that. So I'm working with all of them, wrestling with Hartman, OG, Ben Pazook a lot, especially Pazook. We've been getting a lot of extras in. I really like him. Working with a lot of the both 84 pounders, Sam and Brad. So it's a lot of people I'm working with, but I'd probably say I spend most of the time with Pazook and the freshman class for sure.
Do you is this moment mainly like outside of practice, or do you, like individual workouts outside of practice, or mostly during the workout? Like, I guess do you guys still have practice like every afternoon and like some mornings? Is that kind of like the schedule, or do you do some like midday stuff as like everybody's schedules allow?
Yeah, so we mostly do 1 practice a day. Today we're gonna have 2, but mostly 1 practice a day. But I usually work with them on like individuals. Either they'll bring a partner or I'll roll with them. And some days I'll have like 4 or 5. Most days on average, I'd say I have probably 2 or 3. But yeah, some days it's real busy. And I love that. That's what I want to be doing. I'd rather be working with these guys than sitting in the office. So I encourage them to text me and set up an individual, and they've been doing a good job of getting a bunch of extras in, because I feel like that's where you really focus on your individual technique and get better.
Yeah, I feel like I coached for a few years, and it was always that fine balance of like, you're trying to, you want the camaraderie of having the team workout, but you also need to have individual focus, and people are on different levels. And so how do you come up with those things? It's always like, I feel like that's one of the hardest things about being a coach, is developing that perfect practice routine to get everybody better. But the individuals workouts are, when you're working on things specific to what you need to improve on, I mean, you're always gonna get better like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be on. Oh, it's all right. It doesn't have to be like anything too crazy either. Like we'll do some individuals, and we're not going that hard, and we'll kind of just work on 2 to 3 things, and that's what I tell them to focus on all practice. Work on these things, keep getting to it. Um, if you have any questions, we'll do it next time or after practice. We'll work on it again, and that's kind of how I learned is do some individuals with my coach, work on a few things, stick with it for like 3 to 4 weeks, just keep working on it. And then eventually you just have it down. That's another thing in your pocket. Then you can do another individual, figure that, learn more, and then just keep doing that. And that's how you eventually become really good at wrestling.
Mhm. Who would you say that who's like your toughest matchup? I know Coach Ward kind of let the cat out of the bag last week on this episode where he talked about how you smacked Pazook, and I was like, man, Pazook, because for some reason I'm thinking you're smaller, but you're probably just as big as he is now, from for size perspective. Who's the toughest go in the room for you? Not to say there is a tough go, but like who competes with you the best?
Right now, I'd probably say Pazook. He's strong. He's got good outside shots, but yeah, I would say he gives me the toughest match. Right now, I don't know. I'm just doing really well. So.
Your smile indicates that nobody's really giving you a tough match. You can just say it, but I feel like that's how, you always hear these stories of like, the guys that, freshmen who come in or, when better guys come in, towards the end of the season, like you're like, I couldn't get a takedown for, the first month. And then I got that first takedown. And then, I was getting a couple. And then by the end of the year, I won a match, off that guy, or something like that. You hear those stories all the time. Usually younger guys, coming into programs. But when you mentioned, when you say it like that, I'm hopeful that, Pazook will have that trajectory, and then some of the other guys too.
Yeah, and they definitely give me like tough goes and stuff, but yeah, right now I'm still getting better. I don't know, and just wrestling really well, and yeah.
Any thoughts of a comeback?
Yeah, I might actually wrestle at Midlands, which is pretty funny. My head coach at Ryder, his first year coaching as a volunteer assistant, he went to the Midlands and won it. And he told me that, and I was like, I'm doing the same thing. So right when I found out we're going to Midlands, I'm like, hey, Coach Ward, can I go? And he's like, well, think about it. And then a few months later, he's like, yeah, you can go. So I'm hyped about that. So I'm most likely going to wrestle at Midlands this year. I'm going to go
65 or 74? 65. Well,
I'm actually lighter than I was last season. Like I only weigh around 170 right now.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not big at all right now. Pretty light. I'm working out all day, still lifting a lot, but some days I'm wrestling 4 or 5 times a day. So just burning a lot of calories, and like I'm eating as much as I can too. I'm just not gaining weight. So yeah. I'm not mad about it.
When you're working out that much, it's hard to really eat that much too. When you're going through all that, but that's pretty cool. I feel like there's no downfall to, I guess maybe you don't get to coach as much then, but the benefits would be, the guys get to see their coach competing, your mindset is like what they're, theirs too, and unless you're taking it super, super serious, you should be able to balance them both, Now, if you're like going out there and your main focus, for this whole year is to win Midlands, it's probably not the best thing. But I feel like you got your head in the right place.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm just going to go there and look to have fun. And that's something that I did all throughout my career is, well, at least my last 2 years is once it became fun to me, it took a lot of the pressure away. I just enjoy wrestling and going out there and competing. So obviously you get nervous still, but I'm focused. I'm just looking to have fun, be able to wrestle again and compete. It's perfect.
Nice. So for the listeners who are watching, they're probably like, "Where's he going?" He just walking around. So you're in Arvin, right? Are you in Arvin right now? Kind of in the hallways there.
Yep. Yeah. So we have recruits right now, and there's people in the wrestling room. So I had to get out just to focus a little more.
How many recruits are in right now?
Just two with their parents and stuff. So yeah.
Today's the start of Army Air Force Week too. Have you seen any of the shenanigans going on, around the dorms or anything like that? You aware of it at all?
I haven't actually. Pretty much just spend most of my time in the wrestling room all day. So I don't really see anything else that goes around here too much unless we're walking recruits around or maybe getting lunch. But most of the time I'm in Arvin, so I haven't seen anything.
Nice. So I guess before we wrap up, a couple questions. I guess what would you say you're most excited about this year, outside of building All-American, hopefully building All-American, things like that? Is there anything like specifically that you're excited about, kind of going forward? I'm going to try to make some of the matches this year. Any dual meets that, stand out, or matches or, potential matchups that you see that you look in the schedule?
I'm honestly just excited to coach. Like, it's going to be a lot different. Not wrestling anymore and coaching from the sideline. It's going to be a different experience for me. And it's kind of crazy that it's coming up in a week, our first tournament. Well, we have East Stroudsburg where we're sending a lot of our backups and the prep guys. So that's going to be my first time coaching. And I'm excited to be in these guys' corners and just help them. It's different for me and probably going to be a lot more nerve-wracking, but I'm just excited for that.
Do you have your coaching outfits like ready? I mean, I feel like that's like an unspoken rule that like coaches got to look the part now. Did you have to go like shopping and get like a bunch of dapper stuff? Anthony, he dressed pretty well for dual meets. Are you up for up for that? Have you gone shopping?
I haven't yet. I probably should. But I have some nice clothes. I think it's I'll be able to wear that coaching. I think I'll look good enough, but yeah, I might have to buy some stuff.
Just borrow some Coach Ward. He's always got it going on pretty good.
Yeah.
So are you going to Stroudsburg this weekend too?
Yep.
Then how's it? So I didn't realize that the journeyman duels are in Mannheim this year. It didn't click until somebody mentioned Penn State was going, and then I was like, wait, I think Army's going to that too, but thought it was in New York. So it's at Mannheim. Is it dual format? Do you know these details of it? That's the first competition.
Yeah, I thought it was dual too, but apparently it's like we're sending our whole team. So I'm assuming I know it's an individual tournament, but I guess it's an open. If we're sending our whole team, if that's true, I could be wrong on that, but yeah, it's an individual tournament, and yeah.
Are you worried at all about it? It is at the Spooky Nook arena, so it sounds. I mean, it's past Halloween, so it's not as scary as probably it could have been yesterday. But no, that's just me cracking a joke. That's pretty bad. Coach Ward, leading up to EIWAs last year, every episode I would talk about how worried I was about it being at the facility. But bad joke if you hadn't listened to those episodes. Listeners, if you're in this, I swear it's funny. But no, I'm gonna try to make. I forgot about East Stroudsburg this weekend. I live like an hour away, so I'm like, ooh, I should go up to East Stroudsburg this weekend. That's always a good one. That was like a good tournament when I was in college. There was always there were like 50 guys in a weight class.
Yeah, it'll be good, and a lot of these guys need matches. I mean, there's a lot of sophomores, even some juniors that pretty much had no matches so far, like with COVID year, and then last year having limited dual meets, no open tournaments. Some of these sophomores and juniors haven't even wrestled a college match yet. So I'm excited to see a lot of them compete. They deserve it, and they need to get some matches under their belt. So it's going to be real important for those guys.
Nice. That's on Saturday, right? So you guys are driving up
Sunday.
Oh, it's Sunday?
Yep.
Nice.
Sunday.
Maybe I'll drive up on Sunday. Gotta see what I'm doing. But those are all the questions I got. You got anything else you want to put out to the fans? We'll do a more in-depth kind of episode later, talking to your journey and kind of get to know you more as an individual. But I want to at least get you on before the season and kind of let the fans know who you are, talk a little bit about the program and your journey to West Point. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, that's really it. But I think you're going to see real good things from West Point this year. We're training hard. The guys are looking great. I think we have a really strong team this year. So I can't tell you how excited I am to just start coaching, get the season going, and yeah, it's going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, I couldn't be more excited. It's November 1st, officially wrestling season. It's cold outside, officially Christmas season. So yeah, appreciate you having you on the show, and look forward to seeing good things this year. And best of luck at Midlands.
Yeah, thank you. It was,
Awesome.
had a good time.
Thanks for tuning in to the BHAW radio show. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. If there's something you'd like to hear on a future show, reach out to us on any of our social media, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Or you can reach us at email, bhaw.radio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and as always, go Army, be Navy.